Okay, this will be an interesting one. I'm just going to see what we're going to make of this interesting piece. I think we're going to make it a text, and I'm going to start with black. This is something I found which should not have been on the side of the road, but it was. And believe it or not, it's as new condition. It's like it was packaged in plastic. I don't know whether it was still in the box. I think it was still in the box, maybe. But it's appalling state of affairs when you look at it. So we're now just going to switch that in negative positive and make it fairly contrasty, and think we've got to make it dark because it's negative. But anyway, let's see if we can make this turn up nice. Okay, what is it? Okay, it's something that should never be thrown in the waste, ever. It's basically an Apple iMac. I think it's an iMac keyboard. You can't use this with your normal computer because it's got this notch, so it's useless. But I'm hoping that, I don't know whether I'm going to keep it or maybe send it off for recycling, because if you're going to dump electronics, you can't dump it. You got to recycle it. It must always be recycled, not dumped, because electronic waste is a serious problem in this world, and it kills. It has lead, it has mercury, it has cadmium, it has all sorts of shit that should never, 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 never go into landfill. And it shouldn't even be incinerated, even in a high-temp incinerator. The plastic toxic fumes that come off burning plastic are horrendous. And also it produces CO2 in the atmosphere. We don't need any more of that CO2, thank you very much. So that looks interesting. Can't see the letters very clearly though. I'm just wondering if we're going to make this into a positive image rather than negative. But yeah, it's really bad, e-waste. It's a serious problem, and not much of it apparently gets recycled. So it's a really big problem, and I'm really over the way people this is what I hate about this throwaway society we live in. You can't just keep throwing things away, and just because the capitalist piggies that run the big companies like Apple, Apple, well, basically we don't want them telling us that we have to throw away, or should I say we have to basically what they call upgrade, which is, it's not upgrading, it's called replacing. Get your fucking words right, guys. Fuck yous. Get your bloody lingo right. It's upgrade is when you take hardware and you take a small part of it and you upgrade it and you replace parts of it. Like potentially on a photocopier, if the photocopier industry had half a brain. They're also extremely wasteful. But basically, upgrade to me is replacing parts of an assembly, like in a photocopier, but for improvement. And also update is another word that gets abused. And basically update to me is simply when the computer updates its software, we all know about that. But sometimes people use the word update to also mean replace. And it's just, sorry guys if I sound a bit accusatory, getting angry at you guys using that kind of lingo, but I really hate that kind of incorrect use of the word update and upgrade. I want people to know that it's not updating or upgrading, it is called replacing. And replacing is the last thing you want to do. Pretty much. Well, actually the last thing you want to do is to dump what you replace. But when you replace, you have to think of the planet. You have to think and somehow find a service you can find these services by Googling how, dumping e-waste, for example. So maybe if you Google a term like that, or how to dispose of e-waste safely. But it's not much of it gets recycled, I've heard, and it really concerns me greatly as a person who cares about the planet and its people and its animals, and it's just not good enough to throw this in the landfill. And this was on the side of the road. I don't know why this person, he had other e-waste there as well. I don't know what he was thinking and what was happening. Maybe he just got thrown out of his house. A lot of the time when people get evicted, they just throw their shit on the side of the road, or maybe the landlord throws the shit on the side of the road. I don't know what was going through this person's head, but I found all sorts of shit that should not have been dumped. I'm hoping if I can find a use for this, I'd like to be able... Oh, hang on. I was meant to change to mirror image, but I'm thinking we might just keep it like this. We're going to make something more different without the mirror image. But I'm trying to use this piece of e-waste. I'm trying to decide whether to keep this e-waste in case I buy an iMac when I get married, or whether we're just going to put it in for recycling. It's best to reuse than to recycle. I'd rather if I had an iMac to use this as an emergency keyboard or something, a spare keyboard. There's got to be a use for it. I just can't tolerate this kind of waste, and I just wish things could be more easy to reuse rather than having... I mean, recycling's good, but recycling isn't as good as reusing. And of course, the best thing to do is to refuse the product. If you don't need the product, if you can still get by with an older machine, if it's still serviceable, it's like, wow, you can keep it and use it for another couple of years before you end up replacing it with something entirely new. But companies like Apple, especially under the heading of Tim Cook, basically, yeah, they're assholes that just want you to keep replacing your stuff because it makes money. The love of money is the root of all evil. It has been said so many times, and you can see that it is, because it's causing pollution, it's causing unhappiness, it's causing wars and famine, unfairness in society. It's got to stop. Capitalism has got to be stopped. It has to be replaced with socialism. But don't get me wrong, you got to still have money. I'm not saying get rid of money. I'm not talking about communism. I'm talking about fairness. Products designed to last. Products designed for the planet, designed for the people, not for fucking the few rich people, the 1% who make the money. They can go fuck themselves, because in the future capitalism hopefully will be almost obsolete.